Well guys, welcome to a special showcase around the entirety of Whiteburg City, including the Palace of Hampwick, also the Parliament buildings, government buildings, train stations, everything and anything we have to offer. So buckle up, it's going to be quite the ride. So today guys, I'm starting off down here at St Stephen's Station. So this station is below St Stephen's Church, which is over there in front of me. Now that whole area behind the church there is currently under construction still, and we'll be getting back to that in a later episode of my series of what's going on in Whiteburg City, also known as the Whiteburg City Update. So a lot of you over on the channel, if you already are a subscriber, excellent. You would have seen the video all about me building what's behind me there. If you're new to the channel, then this place here is the capital city of the Empire. The Empire being the Whiteburgian Empire, or the Empire of Whiteburg, which is the main country and also the name of the city. So coming in front of me are all of the buildings that form part of the governmental complex that run this country and empire, along with some other little bits and bobs. A shame that the render distance doesn't get it all in at once. So anyway, this station here is based upon those sort of exist on the district line of London. Now, enough stalling underway. I think we're going to walk up into this place here and see a little bit of the interior. So coming up to the top of the stairs, we're going to enter into a fairly dark liminal hallway. I do love this view. Now, I built this interior myself and it just sort of came to me in a fever dream. No, I just threw some blocks up at the walls and saw what stuck. Now, here is the main booking hall. So people would walk in this main front door here. They would come over here and go to a teller and go, yeah, please, I'll have a ticket to Wolverhampton. And they'll go, no, sir, you can't. The station doesn't go there. But still, what I have done with this place is I made sure it had a double heighted room here. So a nice big hallway, and you can see there is a couple of skylights lead out there to let some natural light in. Now, this was designed before we actually upgraded to 1.17, so end rods were used rather than the more frequently used light blocks, which is why it looks pretty dark around here. So there's nothing more over this side apart from the fact it's got the staircase down to the other bits, and there is a waiting room down there. But right, should we wander out into the street and start having a look around at some of these governmental buildings? So the reason I'm doing it as a walking tour, which I don't normally do with these things, I tend to fly around and show everything off in a creative mode fashion, is because I want to give a sense of scale to this place. Yes, it may feel big, but these are monumental buildings. They aren't to be taken lightly. So anyway, this is the front of St Stephen's Station, and you can't actually see it very well because it kind of hides itself behind these gatehouses, which is nice. I think it looks great and it blends in with the landscape, except for when you come down here, you can see 3 of those main 5 arches in the front. So anyone interested to know where this design came from, it is based on the original 9 Elms Station, which was in Lambeth in London, built around about 1834 for the London and South Western Railways. The building itself doesn't exist anymore, but it did exist up until the 60s, I believe. What I've done here is I've gone around and debugged these walls, so they form really nice rusticated lines on there, smaller than using stairs, as you can see over there with the stairs. So we're out here on the main sort of drag. This is Park Road, it leads up there to a large royal park, and a lot of the buildings along here are very important indeed. So this building here is the main gentleman's club of the area. So you would come here if you were a dignitary or, you know, a high well-to-do person, and you would probably have your lunch here, play snooker, have a few drinks, and rub shoulders with all of the MPs and dignitaries from foreign countries. Now this is known as the Cdp Hq Pywell House, and the rest of it isn't done yet. There will be a garden out the back here, so we'll see that in a later episode of the Whiteburg City updates. What is quite interesting about this building is it's mainly made out of diorite walls, which you can see are, you know, not everyone's favourite cup of tea, but I do love the texture and effect it gives. It's just lovely. So behind me here are a couple of trees. Now these are all custom trees that we have built ourselves, and instead of using full blocks, these ones have all gone for using walls inside. So if you're looking to build some skinnier trees, this is definitely a way to go about doing that. I think these look great. Let me just fly up over here. You can get a real picture of this. Ooh, some trees are missing there. I don't know what's happened here. Some of these trees have been cut in half. Oh, that may have been me when I was pasting some of this back in a hurry. Never mind, we will address that later on. That is the first time I've noticed that. Anyway, I'm not going to wander any further up that street there. No, what I'm going to do here is come through these gateposts into the main complex, the main Palace of Hampwick, the Parliament of Whiteburg. So we're going to wander on past these 2 identical gatehouses based on those outside of the Greenwich Royal Naval College, also now Greenwich University. And if you haven't already twigged, or if you haven't, like I said, already watched videos on my channel, you will then know that this place is based on Greenwich, the buildings designed by Sir Christopher Wren in the early 1700s. Now, what we're looking at here is a couple of parts of government. That building, that entire section, this entire complex here is the House of Lords and their offices. This one here is the Empire Office, that one over there is the Foreign Office, and in front of me there, the other identical dome is the House of Commons. So we'll get inside those in a bit. But what I want to do is just wander on past here and see some of these sites. So in real life, these buildings are monumental. Walking down this main road through the centre, I think it's called College Road, you do feel very dominated by these buildings, which is not a bad thing. And there's some lovely dental work up there. Lots of details on here because these buildings aren't Georgian as such. They aren't plain Georgian buildings. They are actually Baroque, English Baroque. So you can get loads of details in there, loads of different styles. Now this side here is interesting because it is plain, but it works with the heavy window usage and also a nice string course around there with a bit of detailing on it. Now you're probably wondering as well, are these iron bars? They are iron bars, and ooh, what's that in there? Yes, so the interior in there has been designed by Wobbex. He is a great interior builder, and both the Houses of Commons and the House of Lords have been designed by him, and we'll go in and have a look at that in a bit. So I just wanted to show you something inside here actually quickly. So we got the courtyards in the middle of these places. Let's go run into these bushes. They're interesting because they're actually quite heavily detailed, but you're never going to see them from the outside. So these are mainly for the office workers who actually run the Empire Office. They can wander in here, have a little sit down, have a little gaze across the gardens. Look, there we go. We can just sit down using our sit command and have a little look and just breathe in the evening air. So I'm currently walking around this place in about 4:30 in the afternoon as the sun is kind of setting, because I wanted to give it a nice glow, a nice feeling about the place. Before we head on into the main quad, I think we should wander actually out this side and have a look at this place from the riverfront. So we can't not mention the elephant in the room that I keep avoiding. This is our version of HMS Hood. HMS Drake, as it's known in our world, was built by Lord Goblin Esquire, and this is currently here under its naming ceremony, which will feature in a political debate later on our channel, all to do with the upcoming war. Kind of is on hold at the moment. We'll talk more about that in the coming server update tour. But you can see here the front of this building is gorgeous, and its identical twin over there both sit on the riverfront and look out towards the River Avon. Now in the future, behind me, there will be some more docks straight ahead. You'll be able to see them from here. All along the front here, there is a lovely Riverside Wall that has been built by all of us when we started off doing this. There's little steps down as there is in real life. Now in real life, I've been down these steps looking for archaeological finds as part of my college class. I'm not going to walk down there now because it's a bit wet down there. Let's have a little look inside the main quad then. So when you wander on into the center here, you're greeted with a large column and a statue of myself. Now this is my first mention of all of the statues around here. If again you are a main subscriber to the channel, you will understand that statues mean a lot to me, and we have many statues around this complex, all featuring my head in various different forms. They even came to life in one of our Christmas episodes of the pub crawl, where they all sat in there pretending to be the House of Lords. Actually, that is what the Lords look like in our version of the world. Anyway, so we're going to go around and I will point out a few more of these as we head on round. So you are then greeted with, after looking at the statue, a couple of domes and another dome in the center behind it. So in real life, these two buildings exist. In real life, that building at the back does not exist, although it could have done in some form. I made obviously a video about it all, so you guys can check out a bit of the history on that. But in our world, that is where the Prime Minister lives, in Greenwich House at the back. We will wander on up there in a sec. Right, before I stall any longer, I'm going to wander on up these stairs, walk on inside the House of Lords, and show you guys some interiors. But before we do that, there's a lot of before we do that. Just gaze down these views here. Oh, look, there's a little car coming in there. And then wander on up this staircase, feeling full of power and emotion. And that's what good architecture should do to you. It should fill you with foreboding and fear. No, those aren't the correct terms. It should be filling you with inspiration, desire, and also just... I don't think fear is the right word, but fear comes to mind at some point. Right, I'm going to wander around this colonnade here. So what is cool is obviously with shaders on, you get some beautiful sun rays and sun shots coming through these columns here. And it's nice having a colonnaded walkway like this. And not just that, when we built this, we decided to make the roof really detailed, because in real life it's exactly the same, and you don't really want to go through and not add these little bits of detail in. Coming out here into the central courtyard, it's massive, and there's like a little fire escape over there and a single lamppost in all of this. I do love it. And Goblin, Sir Lancelot, Lanwan, Krista, thank you all so much for helping build this place. I know we took us a long time to do it, but it really was worth it in the end. Right, let's head on down into the House of Lords. As I mentioned earlier, these places have been designed by Wobex, who is a master. Just look up there. We have such detail, such fantasy, such beauty. I love the granite columns around here. Not just that, also the walls are made out of brown concrete powder, but they give this beautiful texture that looks like wallpaper. No, not even wallpaper. It looks like stucco on the walls. A beautiful plaster. Now the use of these little alcoves up here with light coming in gives you an impression of depth and scale that just, I love it. I do love this place so very, very much. Now, before we wander on in, the way the House of Commons works and the House of Lords works in English Parliament is you have two houses, they both take laws, and then they send it off to the king or queen to get royal assent on it. There we go. That makes more sense. Anyway, while I was explaining that, I hope you guys had a little look around here. I love it. I love the heaviness of the roof. The fact you can't see it as well brings this tightness down on you. But then you look down here and it's light. It's white. The floor is beautiful and clear, and you've got all of this light coming in from the windows. Let's wander on down towards the throne. And yes, that actually is a throne. So we've got some books out here on the main central table, and then we have some more benches and that through here. But this is the throne of the King of Whiteburg. So he comes in here every time Parliament has to open up again, and he sits down in the golden throne and looks out upon the Empire. Now, a lot of questions are asked about who is the king, because I'm not the king, I'm the Prime Minister, so I operate in the other house there and live in the large dome structure. The king is King George V, although he hasn't been in public for several months. Maybe he will eventually, who knows. Anyway, this is beautiful. I love this detail here at the back of the dais, and I think it all looks great, Wub. So thank you so much for building this. Right, should we wander on over to the opposing house over there, the House of Commons? But let's wander on inside here and see where the laws are made. Look up there, we have the Whiteburg shield gazing down on you, this really nice large lamp design hanging as a lantern from the top. These windows have been blocked off this side as well, and it gives a better impression of a just how these two institutions are actually very different from each other. This is less ornamented in here, very much more plain and functional, but beautiful in its own rights. So both of these houses are actually based on those that are in the Palace of Westminster currently, you know, our neo-Gothical structure with Big Ben on the end. But they have been reworked to give them a bit more of a classical feel, a bit more of a Baroque feel, so that when you wander into them, you aren't wandering into a Victorian nightmare. Anyway, we're going to come up here to where I stand and do my whole shouting at people and being told to stop shouting at people by the speaker. And we are all being sat underneath the shield of Whiteburg with the lion on top. I love this. This design is beautiful. The way it sits in here between these two columns as well is perfect. Right, well that's enough interior looking, I believe. Let's go wander back outside and see a bit more. Look around this lovely courtyard here. So it's completely different to the one that we just saw over there. Now the plain austerity of that one is contrasted by this beautiful Baroque loveliness over here. Now, as I mentioned inside, that building is actually more plain on the inside, while that one is more ornamented, and it's just the way it has been designed by the architects. I think it's a lovely feature, and it really does look like a palace at this point. Anyway, this place is lovely, and it was possibly designed by Hawksmoor rather than Wren due to some of the details mainly around this part. In real life, it does kind of look like this as well. It's got a very large pediment and very heavy details about it. Even if we come on the outside here, you can see this section's huge, but in real life, it works, and it's there as well. So we have looked around the main four buildings of this site. We're going to then wander on up there later on, but I think for now, what we're going to do is take a sort of left back out here, have a little look through the gardens, around the stables, and all of the other bits and bobs around here. So let's go over there. So if you haven't ever been to Greenwich in London, I really do implore you to go. I didn't get a chance to go while we were building this because of many lockdowns and restrictions and all sorts, but I really urge myself to want to go back. I just yearn to return to this place and see it in real life again and go, hey, we built that and it looks great. Obviously we didn't build the real one. But now we're wandering away from the main buildings and we can see a bit more of the parklands that's around here. A quick change of time just to show off the backs of these buildings slightly more. I love this section over here. Now this section was built apparently as part of the palace that was meant to be built on this site in real life, designed by a guy called Webb rather than Sir Christopher Wren, and Wren took that design and designed the rest of the complex around it, making sure that there was a gap left in the centre to allow for a view from the Queen's House, which we haven't built, down to the River Thames, which we haven't built. Anyway, this is HMS Victory, as built by a guy on our server called Adam, and it's obviously a beauty. I love it. The colours work perfectly. The shape, design and style of it is incredible as well. Have a look at some of these details in here. So we've got heads acting as bits of wood there for some of the rigging. Same over here, we got debugged fences doing all the same works as well. Now these are cool little things that you can obviously do in creative Minecraft. Doing any of this in survival would be a little bit of a nightmare, but I'm pretty sure you can find ways around it and make it work to your fashion. Now all of the rigging up around here is all being made out of the iron bars, so even in the default texture pack it looks perfect as well, as you can see right now. Actually, do you know what, I haven't looked at this place in default textures for a very long time. You kind of forget that sandstone has a different color in our texture pack. It's smooth sandstone rather than not, but I love this still. Oh, this is Revelations. This is beautiful. Wow. Okay, anyway, that was a quick side sort of note there. I didn't really realise what this place looked like. I hadn't seen it ever. Lovely. Right, so let's carry on our little walk along the main central walkway over here. So anyway, the complex doesn't stop here. We have several more buildings lining this road. This is the Home Office, where a lot of the affairs of the country are dealt with, and it was originally the Siemens Hospital for the Royal Naval Hospital in real life. I love it. It's a lovely square building. I think it works well. Lots of simple details, but they still really do hold their own and work for this style. And a lot of people ask, like, how do you get away with making walls look plain? You just do. And when it's actually part of an entire structure with other little bits of detailing around it, you realize how it does just work. And you're never going to unsee a cat's face there. Yeah. Excellent stuff. Right, let's head on back out here and go look at the stables. Right, so over on this side of the road, we have an entire complex of stables that we can see from up here. They're massive, aren't they? And this would allow the MPs to come in their horse and cart. Things would get dropped off, you know, it would be, not everyone can get a parking space. Their horse and carts will go back off to wherever they need to be, and they'll come back later on and pick them up. This is mainly for just workers who live here and the likes. But no, it's a great little stable block. I think Krista built this one based on one in real life, obviously at Greenwich as well. Same with this section over here, which is a Baroque beauty, isn't it? Love all of those columns, details, and circular, and little bits of circular windows in there as well. So let me get back over to the path, because we have reached the other side of the complex now, and out through these gates are even more buildings that we haven't ever really looked at. So we've got another pair of these gatehouses here, and then we come out onto the main sort of living area of people. So as in real life, you know, these buildings need to be surrounded by people, and we've got pub after house after everything lining these streets. There we go, another statue of myself there. But this is a beautiful little corner cafe pub built by Aussie, I believe. And a lot of these houses along here were built by Krista and Finky, and up there some more by Aussie. Let's take a little wander up this road and see some of the details. So you can see how these plain townhouses work really well because the proportions are there. It all looks great, and we've got different designs for doorways in there. Then we come up against some buildings that actually have some columns or some balustrades along the sides, but not just that, we also have around the back here the market. So let's wander on in here and see what's for sale. So we're going to come on through these little alleyway here and have a look at the market in here. So it hasn't actually been set up today, which is a shame, as they kind of knew I was coming. Maybe they've all run away for lunch. But yes, so in real life, this is Greenwich Market undercover between the buildings, and it even has houses and shops facing it. Once upon a time, obviously it wasn't covered, so it would be an open market, and these shops made a little bit more sense to having their sort of walkways along here. But now it's all been closed off, and it's really cool. I like it. I think I've been to it in real life as well. This is lovely. I haven't ever seen a shop front made that red. So this is using one of these Never blocks. Never walk block. Tasty stuff. Lovely. Right, nice one. Let's wander back out onto the main road, shall we? Right, well, we're at another crossroads. The Mall carries on down there. We'll have a proper look at that in a second. But first of all, we're going to get glimpses now of the church of St. Peter and St. Paul. This one was built by me based on the real life church over in Blandford Forum. And we get the main thoroughfare through here down to the other section of Whiteburg. Oh, just look at this place. Unfortunately, we haven't got the render distance turned all the way up because we can't. That's as far as we can see. Now, I have posted recently some pictures of this entire road from one end to the other as a render, so you can see exactly what's along it. But as I mentioned, there's some more houses up around here as well, and life is coming to Whiteburg City. There's just too much to see, so I'm just going to quickly show you a whistle-stop tour along this road here. We've got these beautiful Regency-styled buildings. They mirror on this side as well, with entrances into the marketplace stack there. Got a little gate here as well into that. Now, Ozzy was busy during all of this as well, and he built an entirety of a street, a block. So not just a street, he built all of this and the section in the middle with all of the Muses and these small little coach houses at the back with a little market as well. So let's have a little wander around this market here, see some of the details. So I love this. Little stalls with stuff on. We've got a, a veg market. That even looks like a massive bar of carrots down there. Perfect. So a lot of this has been done by sort of cheats in World Edit. I say cheats, hacks probably? Don't know. Techniques using World Edit to get stuff in place, including invisible item frames. They help build in small little details and really do add to the whole overall picture. Now, when you're designing townhouses, adding a muse and a gatehouse at the back really does go a long way to giving it a nice authentic feel. A lot of these places have long, thin gardens with buildings at the back where, servants would live, the coach people would live. It's definitely how the times were back then. Right, well, this is enough looking around the square. Let's wander back out onto one of the parks. So we're out on a currently unnamed road that will eventually lead off to the walled city of Hampwick, the oldest part of Whiteburg City, based on the walled city of Southampton that will one day get round to building, along with a list of all the other stuff that I'll one day get around to building. Yes, I know there's a lot of stuff I've promised in the past, just don't. Anyway, we're wandering up here to one of the parts of the royal parks that surround the entire complex of Greenwich House. So let's take this little road through here. There's just too many townhouses to look at down here, but I want to go through this little diagonal street here and embrace some of the greenery, some of the scenery, and some of the views. Don't you just love it when something lines up like that and you can stand here, you can just lay down and you can look up at it and people will come over to you and go, "Excuse me, sir, you can't just lay down there." And you'll be like, "Well, I'm just having a look at that beautiful church over there." And suddenly they'll start laying down as well, and then it'll just be mass hysteria. But still, the church of St. Peter and St. Paul just sits so well in that little gap there with the trees. Now every gap we're going to walk past is going to be exactly the same. No, let's carry on walking down here. I just jumped the fence into the main park itself. We won't go over to the church too much because you've seen most of it from here. There's no interior inside it, and I want to carry on down this path actually towards the main house itself, Greenwich House. So we're coming in on one of the wings. Now I haven't really shown these off much. These were all designed, these wings were designed by myself. They weren't based on anything apart from this section here was based on, well, the rotunda that goes around the sides of St. Paul's Cathedral, which doesn't have this selection of statues on the top, I don't believe, but I wanted to add 5 statues around there to make it feel even more baroque. Now, speaking of 5 statues, I can also offer you up 12 statues as well, the Muses of the Greek gods, along with the underworld gods as well, sitting down here in the pediment. What I love about this face is just how baroque it feels. You've got that pediment that sits down there below the actual line of the roof. Then above it, you've got this dome type structure with even more statues in. This place is just full of statues. Now, I didn't want to have two of those rotundas along here because I thought that might look a bit messy. I could have just put one in the centre, but no, I decided to leave one there and then have this side without one, adding to the bit more of the eclecticness of this building. So what I haven't shown you yet is back. I've shown you the front, I believe. I mean, obviously we've seen the front quite a few times anyway, but around the back is an interesting affair. So let me try and change the shaders so you can get a better look at this. This is based on Hampton Court Palace, another building designed by Sir Christopher Wren, and I wanted to add it here to the parklands. Over this other side of the fence, we haven't got the rest of the parks in yet. We will do one day. Please bear with. I say that a lot, yeah. Anyway, this building here then is just, as I mentioned, Hampton Court Palace with extra wings on the sides. And these pavilions over here, again, were just random ones that I came up with based on those at the front. But what I like about them is the transition between the materials on here. So, you can see on this side, we've just got oak up through bricks to a sort of grey at the top. This one goes from oak, birch, all the way up through to the whites and has more statues on top. So details carry on through constantly until you get to the center when you have this nice big open walkway section that takes you up into the Prime Minister's flat. So in our world, the Prime Minister only lives in from that window there over to that window there. I know it's kind of big still, but it's not. I mean, 10 Downing Street probably is about the same size if you add in all of the rooms. It's not the entire building. This side is the War Office, that side is the Treasury, and the middle is just a walkway. We'll get to that in a bit. But what is quite nice is you've got this large open section down here that you can't see from when you're walking around there. It just looks nice. You've got a lot of light coming into the basement section. So I think we're going to wander on around to this side. You can see the stable block there quickly. Let me just change the lighting back around again. Right, so we're wandering up here to another Baroque building, and that is the stable block, featuring yet more statues. At last count, there was around about 200 statues featuring my head on this site. Anyway, this building is just based on the other one over there. A small little courtyard in the centre. Currently have my car parked in it, with a few stables around it for all of those that live inside and work and operate in here. Now, the reason this exists and this exists is because this building in the centre was actually here before all of this. This was a country house, well, owned by royalty. It was a palace. And Greenwich House, or Greenwich Palace as it was known then, needed the stables to operate from. Over the centuries, after the Crown lost the Civil War and then returned again, they gave this place to the Parliament, and it was all built up into the governmental buildings you can see here today. Right, I want to show you guys inside the courtyard, but I think we'll wander. I say wander, I'm still flying. We're going to wander around to the front of this building so we can get a good old look at that dome. So back into the light and coming up to one of these small little gate posts, we have several of these dotted around the place, just nice little gate posts that I took the design from the Horse Guards Parade. You'll see these in there. I may even build them again when we do Horse Guards Parade later on in the series. Anyway, the front of this building here is an amalgamation of many different designs, styles, ideas, and everything. It has statues adorning the tops of all of this sort of sections, all of the railings around the top there. You've then got a colonnaded walkway from one end to the other. Let me go stand here for a second and you can just look all the way down. When I put this in, I became so happy because I just went, that sight line there is incredible. I love it. There's even like small little sections under here with bridges and all sorts. Anyway, we're digressing. Let's have a look at the main front of this place. Let's wander on in through these gates and see it as it's meant to be seen. So Greenwich House is, like I said, a creation based on a sketch by Sir Nicholas Hawksmoor. I don't think he was Sir, by Nicholas Hawksmoor and Sir Christopher Wren, who were designing something, a chapel for this site originally when they built those four buildings over there. Now I took that on and turned it into this monstrosity. This hulking mass. I added these sections here that I nicked from St Paul's Cathedral. Then I kind of remembered that there's nothing supporting them underneath apart from a couple of columns. So I had to put a wall in here to make it look a bit more interesting. These are afterthoughts, these bits. Originally this tower didn't have any of this. It just had a curved section around there, concaved wall, and all you had was the main Diocesan's window there and the drum with all of the columns around it. Now, ribbing was thought about for the dome, but we kind of fought against it. Now, I'm not sure if it would have looked good, if it wouldn't. We went through quite an extensive phase of adding it in, but in the end, it's Minecraft, and small ribbing would be existing on it because that's how lead's formed on roofs anyway. So I think we're just going to have to put that one to bed now. Anyway, let's wander on inside this place and go see the amazing interior of the main atrium designed by Wobex. So we come on in and we're greeted straight away with Peter Griffin's head. Bergie, why? Anyway, pranks aside, this place is gorgeous. Just look straight up there into infinity. There is so much white detailing going on, white with a H. We've got Wobex's face up here overlooking everything. We've got light coming in from both sides of these huge windows. And then you have this lovely raised walkway sections with details and designs up and through there as well. So these would lead off into corridors above here and off to offices. So this way is to the War Office and that way is to the Treasury. But everyone mingles in the main central sections, and you've even got more doorways through here with windows looking out, letting light in. This place is beautiful, and again it was designed before we moved over to 1.17, so lamps were a little bit different then. So still, I think it looks perfect. But that's not the only interior we have here. Well, it's kind of the only interior. Out here in the back courtyard, well, over there we have a staging of troops that during a stream about a month ago now, myself and the rest of the Whiteburgian High Council stood here and we gave a speech to the soldiers, warning of war. But before that, this was just an open courtyard in the War Office section, which is kind of like, yeah, that makes sense now. The details in here are gorgeous, I think. Again, this side here is based on Hampton Court Palace, but the interior of the courtyard, this is just made up on the spot, but I had to put a big old broken pediment in somewhere, didn't I? That looks great in my eyes, and we're going to look at that one over there in a second as well. These are mirror opposites, so they are they are flipped. They are exactly the same both sides. The interesting thing I did want to point out actually is an area known as the pit. Now down here is the only statue of myself. Yes, I said there's 200 statues of me, but that's actually of my head. This is the one statue of myself, and it's put down here in the pit between the two basements of these buildings. Now, the reason I put this down here is because this area has what I think one of the best views ever. Just look up there, see it all. Standing below a structure like this is just incredible. And I like the way this formed. I don't even remember why I did this. I just went, I want a big hole. I'm going to call it the pit. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that indeed. Anyway, so you can walk between all of this with these colonnaded walkways into the entrance of the Prime Minister's house, which is just through there. There is one more shield up here of Whiteburg, overlooked by some more statues and a smaller little dome. There are 9 domes on this place. Maybe a bit of overkill, but I think it looks great. So like I mentioned, this courtyard is the same as the other side. I just wanted to walk through it because we have some grass in this one. It's a bit different in that sense, but the walls themselves are exactly the same. This is our version of Queen Victoria, Queen Vic, Her Maj, Queen Vic, Empress of India. There she is. Yeah, she may have needed to have a shave at some point. Anyway, there is one interesting thing that when I was designing this, I went into full planning mode and went, okay, so when vehicles come in here, they can come around, go under the building, come into here, open this gate up, and then the Prime Minister gets dropped off under the building. Yeah, I know. I was bedridden for about a month with a bad leg, so I kind of had to come up with loads of different ideas. Anyway, that is the majority of this section of the video done. I think what we're going to do now is head on back out to the Mall and have a quick old look down that end of stuff. So down the centre of the Mall, spelled M-A-L-L, obviously you would think it's pronounced Mall, but in England we pronounce it the Mall for some reason. There's a place called Pall Mall as well, which is Pall Mall as it's spelled. Anyway, I digress completely. We're going to wander on down this street now towards some of the famed buildings by Goblin himself. So Goblin went mad during the summer last year and constructed so many buildings along this section of the road. Let's have a little quick fly on down to them. So in front of us there is the Aprilty's Arch, and we'll have a proper look at that in a second. Over on my right hand side is a terrace of Regency style buildings built by Lanwan, based on those of Sir John Nash. I think they're great, and lots of little details around the back, really decked out down here in the courtyards. The gardens have all been done. They're sort of sunken garden, nice, with these muses around the back as well. What was interesting is there's a couple of villas, but not villas, so sort of semi-detached buildings at the back of it. Really love the Regency style of buildings. I think it really fits this area well. Oh, we've got some townhouses going in here. Interesting. I wonder who's been building them. I'm in love with the colour scheme on it. That is that nice broken brick look to it. Portions are great. Yeah, Lovely stuff. We'll find out who those are later on in the series of our server update tours. Anyway, let's move on into the main centre of the Mall. We have all sorts of governmental buildings. This is the Supreme Court's office, along with, I can't remember what this one was. I think I said it every time I come down here. Goblin has told me once upon a time, but the building is lovely. I love the proportions of it. It looks great, and obviously it features more statues up there. Anyway, let's move on a bit further down. We have this lovely church here. The spire is interesting. If you need to make a sort of conical spire, get some walls in there, get some details going on. From afar, it looks great. From up close, it looks even better. But it's a real interesting looking church. So it's got this round drum at the centre that then leads on into the main body of the church behind it. You don't see many of these churches around. That's a real keeper, that one. I think it's St Mary's Le Bone. Correct me if I'm wrong, Goblin. And I believe that's where the name Marylebone comes from, as in Marylebone Station on your game of Monopoly. Anyway, over there is the old Royal Exchange, as designed by, I don't remember now, but Goblin in our world. It's a beautiful building. I fear it burnt down at some point and then was replaced by one designed by Sir William Tite, which is the current one that sits opposite the Bank of England. I really like it. I like the way it has these rounded pediments here, and another crest of Whiteburg. I didn't notice you put that in there. Hey, that's a great little detail. But what does capture my imagination is this spire. I love it. And you can see it from across most of Whiteburg. So there's a little place I wish to show you. If you were watching, my Christmas videos all about the pub crawls, you found the underbelly of Whiteburg City. So welcome to the only pub that exists in the centre of the city, literally. Welcome to the King's Rear. As we go in, you notice, things aren't what they seem down here. You have to go in through the back, more statues of me. Look at the guest list, which is just a smiley face. And then you come on into depravity. It's got that real social club in England feel to it. It's dark, it's dingy. There's bottles of beer and wine at the back there. But nice little details here. Lightning rods to be used as the main pumps for the beer. So we're going to carry on around the back here. We've got some stalactites breaking through from above, and they've put some glasses down to try and capture that. Through here, it gets a little bit weird. This was a wrestling ring, and people of Whiteburg come down here, or the main gentry MPs come down here and bet on people to fight to the death in the ring. Yeah, this is the proper seedy underbelly of this place. Lovely use of the new copper blocks. I think these work really well in here. We're going to wander on past these booths. It's really quiet in here today. Not sure what's going on. And through to the back corridors. So they don't really offer rooms to stay. I wonder where the loos are. Oh, here's the toilets. Why does this feel familiar? I don't know. Whose bit of rope is that? Anyway, let's back out slowly. Why is there a window underground? Too many questions. This is, in here is where a lot of things go down. There's usually a kingpin sitting in the seat there, selling his wares about the place. We won't question what that powder is on the table. In here is just death. And then this room here is more death. Oh, they've removed the body now. Okay, that's fine. And we're back to the fighting arena. I just wanted to show you this because Whiteburg City is beautiful above, and below it really is a festering nightmare. Right, let's jump back upstairs. Right, we're leaving the King's Rear behind. We're going to wander on down to the final sections of this video and have a look at Aprilty's Arch. Now, this building was built in the early 20th century in the Edwardian Baroque style, and Goblin captured it perfectly. The building itself is two curves built back to back, but they aren't symmetrical. The sides, as you can see, this one has a flatter edge and that one doesn't, and Goblin had many a headache trying to build this, but sir, you did an excellent job at it, and it really does work as the gateway, the veil, the threshold between government and the royal parks and the royal palace, although government has sort of succeeded and gone through to the other side. That there is the old War Office, or the Board of Trade in our world, and we're back to where we begun, over here in this this area that will be filled out soon enough with townhouses, more stuff. This is going to be an embankment just like that of Victoria Embankment in London. Well guys, I can't believe we've made it, and if I look at my clock, it is just under an hour's worth of wandering around here. I hope I can cut that down for you guys into a more coherent video. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed having a look around here and seeing everything we've built pretty much over the last 3-4 months. Well, let me rephrase that. What we've built across 3 or 4 months last year and finally got round to actually showing it off on camera properly for all of you to see. Now guys, remember, get inspired, get building, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.